everybody, so today we're doing Uranus in the 10th house, and here we go. You guys know I don't like to do introductions into the houses or planets, but I just feel like I have to, so I'm just going to give you a little brief, overview of Uranus. Uranus is eccentricity, individuality, revolutionary breakthroughs, quirkiness, going against the norm, going against the status quo, going against the establishment. So that's Uranus in a nutshell. The 10th house is career, status, reputation, your goals in life. Not necessarily where you're destined to go, like you're ascendant, but where you are trying to go. That is the MC, the midheaven. So let's get into it. I like to start with the most obvious and then break it down into more and more abstract details. So obviously 10th house career, we're going to start there. So if you have Uranus in the 10th house, you are very rebellious against the status quo of the life path of the people around you. That was a mouthful. You don't like to do or go along the path that everyone else is going on, or the path that everyone expects from you. And whatever path that is different, depending on where you're from and who you're around. But whatever it is, that's just the opposite of what you want to do. So, for example, in America, and this is not typical for everybody, but the standard is that you go to high school, you go to a 4-year college, you get a degree, you get a good job, you get married, you have 2.5 kids, white picket fence, dog, and you live out your days like that. That is, the general path that we think of in America. That's kind of like what is set out for us. You, for varying reasons, will want your life path to be very different from that. And depending on the aspects to Uranus and, what other planets might be in your 10th house that would really affect it too, and the sign that it's in and stuff like that. But for the most part, whatever's going on around you, you're like, no, I don't want that. I don't want to do what's generic. I don't want to feel like I'm on a factory line or an assembly line and I'm just kind of living my life in this generic cookie cutter stamp. You're like, I don't want any of what you guys are doing, because you may start to feel like people are only doing certain things, not even because it's good for them or bad for them, but just because it's expected. And your rebelliousness could be for better or worse. I mean, what I just described, going to college, getting a good job, getting married, having kids, that's not really like a negative thing. So whatever the path around you is, assess it and make sure that you're not trying to go against it to your own detriment, because you could end up hurting yourself just because you're trying to be like so, different and out there. Ask yourself, why are you rebelling? Are you rebelling for the sake of rebelling? Or are you rebelling because you want to live a life that's uninfluenced by, the opinions of others, and something that is more authentic to you and reflects who you really are? If it's the latter, then by all means, and especially if it's not to your detriment. But if you're just going against the grain because you just want to say something different or be different, then think about that, because that can have ramifications as well. Whatever your reasons are, good or bad, for better or worse, you are known for your eccentricity, you are known for your outlandishness, you are known for your outrageousness, and you're proud of it. So I've got some examples for you guys. There's a lot of people with Uranus in the 10th house who are famous, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later. First, I love talking about her on my astrology channel. We have Nicki Minaj. I mean, she came on to the scene. She's got these very eccentric wig colors and these very different wig choices. Her style was very eccentric. She's got these strange voices, and these characters that are within her. She's very proud of her outrageousness and her eccentricity, and that she's not, generic. Some other people are Jim Carrey is one, for example. He's known for more quirky roles, more quirky type of movies. The Mask, he played that very well. One of my favorite movies from him is The Cable Guy, where he was just like an eccentric, outrageous character. Like, you're supposed to be just a regular cable man, but he was so out there that they were able to make a movie and call it The Cable Guy, which is based on someone being kind of outrageous and eccentric. And in my personal opinion, and this is no shade or no hate to Jim Carrey, he has somewhat of an unsettling personality off screen, and then that way I feel like he's a little bit of an oddball to me. Personally, I've spoken to other people about this And they're like, no, he seems normal. To me, he seems a little bit outrageous and off in his real life as well. But that's just my personal opinion. Other people are Kobe Bryant, Gigi Hadid, Bruno Mars. You have Donald Trump. Who else? Jeffrey Dahmer, who is known for his eccentricities, his quirks, if you want to call them. He was always known for being a very strange character. And even, you know, if you guys don't know, Jeffrey Dahmer is a serial killer, was a serial killer, whatever. He's not killing anymore. And he had just this very sick, like, quirks to him. He would cut the heads off of his victims. I think he had like a shrine at one point. He was like saving the bodies. Like, he wasn't even just your average serial killer. That's what I mean. Even in his own field, which is not a job, but it is a collection of people that we know about, of serial killers. He is one of the most eccentric, one of the most out there, one of the most shocking, because it's like, what, you can't even wrap your brain around some of the things he's been doing. And so even if you add him in with other serial killers, like the woman from Monster, Ted Bundy, the BTK Strangler, other ones are slipping my mind. He stands out because it was just so far out and wild that people wouldn't even think like, wow, you did that? Why would you even do that? You know what I mean? Why would you kill anyone in the first place, obviously? But just like an example of someone just being like so far left that nobody ever saw it coming. And he was also known for being eccentric because unlike those other serial killers who had like some, how do I want to call it? Just some rationale or some understanding. You're like, it's unfortunate that you're a serial killer, but I can kind of see how you got to that point. Like the lady from Monster, what is her name? I don't want to keep calling her that. Aileen Wuornos. I mean, she was a prostitute. She faced sexual abuse, and then she grew up and was killing her Johns, I believe. So it kind of makes sense. I mean, you've got Jeffrey Dahmer, and he came from a good family, and it's just like, once again, so far out of left field. I'm sure his family thought, you know, he can grow up, college, nice job, bear your kids, and he was a taxi driver, and he was killing people, and it's just like, why? You know what I mean? So very unconventional. Another very unconventional person. Mike Tyson is another one. I mean, we know him for his face tat. I think he was like in The Hangover or something. He's a boxer, but he's just got like a strange, I don't know how to exactly pinpoint it. And that's just the thing. You're not really supposed to pinpoint it. He just got a more strange persona about him. He doesn't live life like what you think he would live, like a boxer. Like this funny voice, and it's just like when you think of like a world-renowned boxer, someone as famous and as great as Mike Tyson, you don't think that he would do some of the things that he's actually done. And so that leads to a little bit of the outrageousness or eccentricity. You're like, what? He did what? He did that to who? It's just kind of unexpected. If you have Uranus in the 10th, you really want to project this image, and you try very hard to, that you are very unconventional, that you are unique, that you are different, that you are unlike those around you. In whatever field you're in, you're like, I'm not like you guys. I'm not doing what you're doing. You push that in people's face at all times. You're like, I am different. You really want to project your own unique creative style. Like I said, whatever you're doing, if you're an artist, if you're a singer, you know what I'm saying, if you're a car salesman, whatever you happen to do, you really want to push that. My style is different, and it is not only is it just different, but it is my own. Because sometimes there is different, or should I say difference for difference's sake. Like if everyone's wearing red and you just wear blue just because everyone's wearing red, then that's a lower vibrational, should I say, expression of the planet. But that's not necessarily, or should I say, a higher evolved Uranus in the 10th is not about wearing blue because everyone else is wearing red. It's about wearing a tie-dye blue and green because you wanted to, not, and it has really no bearing or influence from other people. You want to be known as dressing fashion forward. You want to be the person who is on the front lines of style, the cutting edge of what's new and what's out there. Not because it's new and it's trendy in the sense of a Libra, but because like I came up with this and I've set a trend. So in that way, you like to be known as progressive in your style and in your presentation. You also like to be known as a progressive thinker. You're somebody who, 11th house is all about progression. You're somebody who doesn't mind, saying the things that people around you aren't saying. You don't mind taking that leap of faith and saying, hey, I think that XYZ is wrong, or I think LGBTQ should have some rights. I mean, you could be somebody that's like living in the Bible Belt and, everyone in your town is the same race and it's a very small town, very closed-minded town. And you're like, hey, no, I think that this is okay. I think sex work is okay. I think LGBTQ work is okay. I think I fight for gay rights. I fight for Black Lives Matter. I think that atheism is okay. And I'm not saying that I do or don't believe in those things. I'm just saying, in contrast to the environment that you're in, you really want to be known for your progressive ideals. And I think that can be summed up by saying, or the motto for it would be, not only am I good at what I do, but I do it differently from all the rest. And that makes it that much better because it is my own. It is not influenced by this person, or I'm not just a copycat or a knockoff or a younger version of this person or that person. I am my own thing. Whatever genre of music you listen to, I'm sure you can find like somebody who does something, and then like 10, 15, 20 years later, there's somebody that's younger and they come out and they're like that thing, for their generation. For example, I don't know, this is not really my generation, so maybe I shouldn't be speaking on it, but like Madonna's very like edgy, and she's like, was doing things that were very racy. Like I remember she was posing with the cross, but she was naked. And I think she was banned from something, or, the Pope, she got some backlash for that. And then, you go 20 years later, and this is my opinion, they're similar in my opinion. You've got Lady Gaga, who's very just like out there and edgy, but she's still very mainstream. And, maybe in the next 10 years, there'll be another young white female who's a singer, but she's like edgy in her own way. And so the cycle just keeps going. But you don't ever want to be pinned to any one thing or any one style. You hate if someone would be like, hey, you look like so-and-so, or you remind me like so-and-so, or your whole shtick or your whole thing. You don't want it to be able to be categorized in any way. So that's why you take such great pride in your art. You're like, not only is it art, but nobody ever did this like I did it. And it's special because it came from me, because I did it. You're very happy to be seen as a revolutionary, and you strive to be seen as that in your field. You take a lot of pride in it, and you definitely push that image on people. You definitely, shove it down people's throats. I'm not the same. I'm different. You know what I'm saying? I'm unique. You just like, that is your whole thing that you like throw at people when they first meet you, or even people who don't know you. It's a part of your personality that you highlight. This is a very big point. You don't want to be defined by a job. And a lot of times when you have a certain job, people can kind of define you. They can kind of picture what your life has been like or what it might be like on the day-to-day. For example, if you're a housewife, I can assume that you're married, right? I can assume you may have more traditional values when it comes to relationships between men and women. I can assume, you probably, and I don't want to offend anybody here, you probably don't have a degree, although I personally know some housewives who do. You probably don't have a degree, because if you did, you'd be using it most likely and not sitting at home. I can assume that you probably wake up, you probably cook dinner for the family, whoever's in your family. You probably care for your kids if you have them, care for the home, care for the pets, clean, probably have dinner ready or starting to be ready when your family's coming home. I can kind of assume what your conversation's going to be like. You going outside will probably consist of you going to the supermarket or going to the pet store or just doing things related to the house. I can kind of sum up and envision what your whole life is like, unless you're a very unconventional, housewife. I can kind of sum up what your whole life is like by your job title. And that goes for a lot of people. I mean, if you're a lawyer, I can just assume off the bat you have a high respect for the law. You've gone to law school, obviously, to be a lawyer. You probably work long hours, take your job very seriously, probably make a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be defined at all, and this is because it's the 10th house about career. You do not want to be defined or pigeonholed by your job, which is why you fight so hard to rebel against the status quo of high school, college, married, 2.5 kids. You're like, I don't want that, my life to be in that box. I don't want somebody to be able to look at me and tell me what I've had for breakfast and where I shop. And sadly, for a lot of people, and I'm not saying for the people who are housewives or lawyers, I'm just saying for the people in general, you can kind of look at somebody or hear a couple sentences about them, and you kind of can sum up their whole life. I probably know where you shop. I probably know what you like to eat, what restaurants you like to go to, what type of music you listen to, because people honestly are sheep, and they can be very generic. And subconsciously, as humans, we do kind of follow in the footsteps of those around us, or the messages that are pushed onto us by the media, by our parents, by our community. And that's just something you hate. So your job, you want it to be very unique and something that is specific. And if someone is going to define you by your job, but you don't want them to do, you want that job to say, like, no, this is who I really am. And so because of that, your career may be very unconventional. I mean, a typical 9-to-5 desk job for you is like, no, you need something with constant stimulation, and not just constant stimulation, like Aries, fast, intense thing, which can be repetitive. Even constant stimulation can be repetitive if it's the same type of stimulation. You need something that's just so different. You go to work and it's like, this unexpected thing happened, this unexpected thing happened, and then I'm here, and then I'm over there, and you need it to be very fresh, new, and exciting at all times. You cannot be bored. You cannot be in a cubicle where it's gray and there's fluorescent lights and the sun comes in for like 2 hours until it's like over here, and then you're just like typing the same things. You can't do that. Or should I say, you don't want to do that. You will have jobs that no one's ever heard of. I was in an Uber. I drive Uber now, but I used to take Uber as well. And this lady, she has pets, and she was like some type of animal rights activist. I don't know. But she said there's a turtle in the movie Creed 2, and the turtle was like swimming in the background. And she's there to not only bring the turtle, but to make the turtle's rights are protected, and the turtle's not being harmed and not being overworked. And it was like, it's such a random job. Like, you don't hear about that every day. And it's a job that you wouldn't even think existed. Like, when you are out in the world, I think a lot of times we don't even think about some of the job, like how things get to be there, like an animal on the set, or like a baby on the set. You're just, sometimes you wonder, like, well, whose baby is this, or who brought this animal, or who cares for this animal, or how much is this baby getting paid to just like be a baby as an extra in a hospital. Those are things that you don't always think of, but it is someone's job. There is really a job for everything. I mean, those things didn't get there by accident. So somebody had to do it, somebody got paid for it. People usually just don't do things for free. So yeah, unconventional jobs, jobs that no one's heard of, jobs that you wouldn't even think of. Like I said, jobs that require a lot of unusual or unexpected things. For example, if you were like an assistant to a famous person, that would entail a lot, because you'd be traveling with them to all different kinds of places. You'd be doing all different types of things. One minute you're going to be in Paris and they're going to be like, yo, find me a Dunkin' Donuts coffee or an iced coffee. And then the next minute you might be in Africa and they might need a mosquito net. Or I don't know, maybe that was like a terrible example. Sorry, Africa. Or maybe, you're in the middle of nowhere and they want to buy some weed and you got to go find that. Like, you may come across jobs, or subconsciously or unconsciously, you're going to seek out jobs in which there's a lot of erraticness. Something that really helps break up the monotony and the boredom is travel. So that will be a big one for you. You may have jobs or attract jobs to you. And again, this is all consciously or subconsciously, because sometimes you don't even seek these things out. Your chart is just pulling this type of energy towards you. Very like sudden or on-call status for your job. You may have a type of job where you have to work a shift, and then randomly they'll be like, call you at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you have to be up and you have to answer and you have to go. Like your job can be very like, oh, we need you over here, and you have to go do it. It's that sudden on-call status that adds to the erraticness or the uncertainty of it, which keeps it interesting for you. And so a lot of military work can be seen here, because once again, there's a lot of travel, there's a lot of doing different things, meeting different types of people, and you can be on call. You know, if something happens in the political world or just in the world in general, and they're like, hey, you're part of the reserve, we need you, then you may be over here, you might be over there, or, you know what I'm saying? The National Guard gets called out for protests. Unfortunately, they get called out for natural disasters. They get called out for the coronavirus pandemic. So you never know what you're going to be doing, and nobody even knows or can predict when these things are going to happen. So neither can you. So it's a surprise of where you're going and when you're going. You may have surprise or unexpected job offers and or terminations. I mean, you may unexpectedly, your boss may call you and be like, look, you're fired. And you might be like, what? I've been a great employee, or I didn't see this coming at all. And it might not have anything to do with you. Maybe the company was downsizing, you know, maybe they didn't need your particular position anymore. Whatever it could be, you can get fired suddenly, just as suddenly as you can be hired. If your Uranus is afflicted, or you have more negative things going on with your 10th house, negative aspects to either Uranus or the Midheaven or other planets in there, you may feel a little bit of hopelessness, because you may feel like you'll be fired no matter what. Like no matter how unexpectedly or happily you receive or accept a job, you may feel like this is going to fuck up eventually. And that's the nature of Uranus. I mean, no matter what house you have Uranus in, you always feel this uncertainty, like it's going good for now, and then, you know, you do expect that sudden turn, which can happen. You may land jobs that have very few seats. I mean, I'm going to do a separate video on him, and I can't wait. I'm going to start doing celebrity chart readings. But Donald Trump, so I'm not going to get too much into it now, but Donald Trump has Uranus in the 10th, and I mean, he's the president of the United States. There's not that many, you know, seats for that position. There is just one seat for 4 years, unless you are, you know, you get killed or you are impeached, and that is it. There is one seat for that. So it is an extremely rare position, and he got it. Just like the woman has an extremely rare position of being this animal actor lender. I mean, there's not thousands of people of positions for that. You know, Amazon or whatever might be hiring 10,000, 100,000 people. That's not going to be the case for the types of job that you're attracting. They're going to be very rare. You're going to have an IT related job, because Uranus, like I said, is about progression, and it is about technology and the innovative technology that comes out each year that advances our society. So you would do well, like the people who work on creating the new iPhones or the new technology, the new, just being on the forefront of like cutting edge technology that comes out. I mean, people who are designing the AirPods and the next generation of Apple, and I mean, there's a big like community of people who draw on the iPad Pro. Like that was once never a thing. You used to grab a pencil or grab a paintbrush and paint or draw, and that was it. And now you can create entire works of art on a computer. Somebody had that progressive idea and then put it into action through technology. So you're very much would do well in those type of fields. And if you are someone who has a little bit more stability in your chart, maybe you have some Taurus, or maybe you have other things that are stabilizing your 10th house, that's a good outlet for your Uranus, because it will have the eccentricity or the progressiveness because the technology component, but there's also the innovativeness and the newness and the excitement and the individuality. All that's lumped up because you're bringing your new ideas to this field, and so it can't be boring. Even if you went in from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, the things you're doing there in that time are very innovative and new, and so it keeps it fresh for you, and it keeps the job from getting old and stale and boring. Recommendation, technology field, if you're looking for that stabilization, if you're looking to appease your 10th house Uranus. So I said I was going to get into this, so now I'm getting into it. The 10th house is definitely about fame, and you can like randomly shoot up to stardom in the most unexpected way or at the most unexpected time, or even if it's not unexpected, it will be unexpected to the level that you think. Like, you may be a singer, a country singer in a small town, and you might be like, oh, I really want my CDs to be known and put my music out there, and maybe you make a SoundCloud or YouTube, and you don't even think, like, of course you're shooting for notoriety and recognition, but you don't even think that you may like win a Grammy one day. Like, Uranus is the planet of extremity, and it is also the planet, I would say, of polarity, of, because to have extreme, you have to go from one end to the other. And eccentricity and erraticness. You can really go from being like a nobody, average, Joe Schmo, and you can be a household name. And you may never have expected that, or never have expected to get that far, but that's really cool. So if you're Uranus in the 10th house, just like with Jupiter, which I talked about in my other video, and you're shooting to be famous, know that it really can happen for you. I think this is really a blessing when it comes to if you want to be like in the entertainment industry, or if you really just want to have notoriety in your field. I think this is a great placement for that. Once again, Trump is another example of that. I mean, he was already famous, and that fame catapulted him into this rare job or this rare career path that he has, which I will get super in depth into in my Donald Trump natal chart reading video, which is coming out soon. So this is my little celeb segment. Another celebrity with Uranus in the 10th, we have Fidel Castro. So he radicalized Cuba, and not just Cuba, but the relations that Cuba had with the entire world and families in it. I mean, he affected thousands, millions of people, and just like, you can't really quantify the way that he has affected the world, because it was so extreme. I mean, people left Cuba and were like never came back. People did not speak to their families for years. He really radicalized and was so extreme, which is Uranus, an entire country, and was known for it from a very rare position. So that's very much a Uranus in the 10th house person, job. And if you guys want a Fidel Castro video, as I'm talking about it, I'm like, maybe I'll do him too. So that's an example of Uranus in the 10th. Kobe is an example of Uranus in the 10th. He's a basketball player, which is not, I don't want to say it's not a rare position, because there are a lot of positions and there are many men that have played in the NBA over the years, but I would say it's rare for the amount of people who want to be in the NBA and for the very select few who get to go. I mean, even just think about all the men and women who we all might know personally who go to college for sports and kind of end up doing something else. It's very rare that everyone who goes and pursues a professional athletic career actually gets it. So not only did he get a rare position just by numbers, but the extremity of the fame. I mean, Kobe Bryant is almost synonymous with the NBA. Like, when you think of basketball, you think Kobe, you think Michael Jordan, you think LeBron. And he, that extremity of his notoriety in a certain position is definitely reflected by Uranus in the 10th house. Bruno Mars, and I want to say Bruno Mars is not really super eccentric in my opinion, but also he does music, and I think that in itself is just a creative path. So it's hard to stand out as eccentric when you're amongst a bunch of artists. But I will say Bruno Mars, how his Uranus in the 10th comes out is he's extremely famous, and his career has done extremely well and gone extremely far. So again, the extremities of Uranus, he's won 11 Grammys, sold over 130 million records worldwide, and that's something that most people do not get to do. Very, very few. Even if you are famous or you are on the radio, some people never win a Grammy. Some people never sell that many records. So the extremity of how far his career has gone is once again depicted by Uranus in the 10th house. So when it comes to jobs, you may also change jobs on purpose, like these of your own doing. Often you may get bored very often. Your jobs may also have no cohesiveness. This is a person who is applying for a job and you look at their resume and then they were like a bartender for like 5 months, and then they were a caregiver for like 3 years, and then they were like then they were like a public transit bus driver for like a year and a half. Then they have like 4 years where they didn't do anything, but they went to school for philosophy, and you're just like, there's no cohesiveness. You're just like, what is going on here? Like, what were you trying to do? What angle or direction were you trying to go? You're somebody that might just be like, oh, now I work at the zoo and I take care of flamingos. And then a year later you come back and talk to them and they're like, well, I have my own business, I make mirrors. And then they're 6 months down the line, they're going to school for dental, and you're just like, I can't even wrap my mind around what direction you're going. But once again, they don't want you to be able to wrap your mind around what direction they're going. They don't want you to be able to sum them up. They feel like, yo, I want to be a zookeeper right now, so they go be a zookeeper. And then when they get interested in dental work, they're like, all right, now I want to be a dentist. Like, if you are going to define them by their job, which for the millionth time they hate it, you should at least be able to get some glimpse of who they are from those things. And so even that person that has the erratic resume, I can see like, oh, well, you like bartending, you were caring for someone, you took some time off. I can see that those things are important to you. So yeah, erraticness with job choice. You may have a lot of unforeseen or unexpected circumstances that affect your job or your employment or the path that you're on overall. You may unexpectedly get pregnant, and then, like, let's say you're in school for like gynecology, you unexpectedly get pregnant, and then take maybe a year or two off, and maybe when you go back you don't want to do that anymore. Or maybe your mom falls ill, and so you relocate your whole family from LA to Philly, and the types of jobs that you were doing in LA aren't in Philly. So now you're working in a whole different field. So maybe it's not you. Like I said, it could be subconscious, or it could be the universe just kind of pushing you to a variety of different things in the job field. You also have a very independent job nature, and you'll do well with having your own business. And this will work for you because you can set up your business to be about whatever you want. And because you are running your own business, you will be able to be a part of all different parts of it. I mean, like, let's take McDonald's, for example. If you're a cashier at McDonald's, you already know what you're going to do. You're going to be coming in, you're going to be bringing people up, taking the money, giving the change. It's very predictable and boring. But if you own the McDonald's, or if you're a franchisee of McDonald's, or a franchise, or whatever it's called, you're like, you can be involved in the hiring process. You can be involved in the remodeling. You can be involved in menu prices, adding different things to the menu. McDonald's does give some flexibility when you franchise with their company for some of those things. The decorations outside the restaurant, stuff like that, and that'll just help you keep it interesting. And it really helps for you to not have a boss, because you rebel against authority. Like I said, Uranus is about rebellion, and this is about jobs and career, and you really rebel against authority and the bosses and the people over you, because they force you to follow the predictable rules that you don't want to follow. You don't want a job that suppresses your individuality, like a job that says, oh, you can't have blue hair, you can't have piercings, or you can't have extreme cuts. You might be like, hey, this is who I am. I don't want to be seen as this cookie cutter, person. I want to be out there. I was working at this job called Nifty 50s, and there was this girl there, and she had like this cobalt blue hair, and she had it in a bob cut with bangs, and she had like a septum piercing, and she just had a very like alternative look. And we were all talking on break, and she was like, I really hate that I'm trying to look for other jobs, but I can't because they want me to change my hair. And one of our other coworkers was like, well, how much do you want blue hair? Like, you can have blue hair, but you won't have a job to pay for it. And she was like, but I don't want a job where I can't be myself. And so it's just, you don't want any career path to suppress your individuality or your eccentricness. So you like jobs that let you be more free and express who you really are. You'll have many ideas about how society as a whole can be better and be more progressive. You'll support ideas like defunding the police, universal health care, gay rights. You're just really about promoting progressive ideals for all groups. In conclusion, I would like to say, on the lower vibrational level, or someone who's less evolved, or someone who's younger and still learning how to incorporate their 10th house Uranus into their life and into their chart, you can be someone who's constantly hurt by the idea that other people may see you as being like someone else or being able to be categorized. You may also be really hurt because you feel like you are constantly judged and criticized for not lining up to society's idea of success. You know, you could be the person who is 35, you're not married, you're in school on your 3rd degree, and your mom's like, hey, why aren't you married? Why don't you have any kids? You can be very hurt by that because by society standards, you're not successful, even though you are by your own standards. You can also be hurt by the fact that people may think that you're unstable. Like, this is the person who may go home every year for Thanksgiving, and like I said, the flamingo CNA who was also a bartender and then didn't do anything for 4 years. You're gonna be hurt that people may constantly be asking you like, well, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? What are you going on with now? You may be hurt by the fact that people are constantly, you know, because they will be attacking, criticizing, or questioning, or maybe because they're just trying to understand your life path. You may also, if your Uranus is afflicted, bad aspects or bad planets in the house as well, you may have a loss of fame or a loss of career or unexpected career change. Like I said, you know, maybe something suddenly calls you cross country or suddenly interrupts your career path, and that may really hurt you at the worst. And I would say at the best, and if you have Uranus in the 10th house, I say these things to you guys so that you can identify the negative and not do those things and strive towards the positive. So even if you feel some of the negative things I just said, something that you can strive to or strive for is to be really proud of your ingenuity, to be proud of your differentness, and to be proud of and stand tall in the path that you take. If you don't want to go to college because you want to go be a stand-up comedian, then you do that and you take pride in that, and you don't let anybody tell you that that's stupid or that that's not what you should be doing. You take pride and stand tall in the path that you've chosen, no matter how different, no matter how eccentric, and no matter how much someone else can't see that. Just because they cannot have creativity or envision their life to be any different than those around them, that doesn't mean that you have to restrict yourself. And you also restrict yourself by being hurt by that. Be proud of the path that you took. Be proud of your progressive ideals, and do not let the ideas, the outdated ideas, honestly, of society push you and mold you into a life that is not for you. Or don't let society, and I love this example or this quote, don't let people put a suit on you that does not fit you well. If it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't fit you, then it's not for you. And if everyone you know wants to go to college and get married and have 2.5 kids with a white picket fence and a Jack Russell Terrier, then you don't judge them either. That's for them if that's making them happy. But make sure, be proud and take pride in the fact that you went out and strove for a life that represents who you are. When you create, my final lesson, when you create your own individual and innovative path for yourself, then that is when you'll finally be comfortable to be defined by your job. Okay, so everybody, that was Uranus in the 10th. I really enjoyed this video. It's very interesting, very unique, and a lot of unique people. Like I said, Fidel Castro and Donald Trump, that I'm hoping to put into my celebrity series that will be coming out soon. And if you guys have any celebrities that you would like me to do, put them in the comments. If I don't want to do it, or if I don't like the chart, if I don't feel a connection to it in some way, then I might not do it. But I will consider it. Thank you again for watching. Please like and comment and subscribe. I love reading your guys' comments and opinions. At the end, I try to respond to everybody. Yeah, that's it. All right.